Strategy, technology, demos, and stories from Adobe Consulting. This is the Experience Lab Podcast. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Chris from Adobe, and today's going to be a fun one. Today I'm joined by Andrea Briceño from the Adobe Consulting team that actually works on Adobe as their own customer. So we call it Adobe on Adobe. And she's got a lot of really interesting insights to share, some cool use cases, some inspiring thoughts and ideas, and I think you're going to love this one today. Welcome to the podcast, Andrea. Why don't you say hi to everybody and tell us what you do?
Sure thing. Thank you for having me here. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Andrea Briceño, and I am the Adobe on Adobe evangelist for consulting services. I have been at Adobe for about 3 years. Today is my anniversary, and I have been championing activation efforts in omnichannel initiatives, as well as driving conversations around innovation and customer centric digital experiences. So, thank you for having me.
So to summarize, you're super smart and you do all of the things.
I appreciate that. Your words, not mine.
All right. So you said Adobe on Adobe, but what is Adobe on Adobe? We've talked about it at Summit. We've talked about it at other places. Can you tell the world what this actually is and what it means?
Absolutely. So Adobe is investing in its own technology so that we can bring some of the fascinating best in class capabilities over to our apps. So when we think about the Adobe Experience Platform and some fascinating things like real time customer data profile, journey optimizer, and customer journey analytics, these are the capabilities that we are bringing over to our applications, which you may know, such as Photoshop, we have Illustrator. So, what we are doing here is investing in our own technology so that we can scale our businesses and scale relationships.
And just to touch on the investing in our own tech a little bit, because I think there's probably a bit of an elephant in the room with some of our listeners already going, doesn't Adobe already use their own technology? And the answer is yes. So as we were developing AEP, we actually developed sort of a mini version of it that we could use quickly and drive adoption while we were building the full-grown multi-tenant, full-on platform for everybody. And so we're in the tail end of finishing migrating all the rest of our business over to AEP and then driving a ton of adoption through content supply chain and all the other wonderful things to get everybody over to the new tech.
Absolutely, Chris. And, if I may, the one thing that we are also doing at Adobe on Adobe is we're not focusing only on one area. So we are actually working actively with the pillars of Gen Studio, Experience League, as well as, our Adobe Enterprise. By adopting our own solutions from the Adobe Experience platform, what we can ensure is that we can continue supporting our digital transformation to allow Adobe to further enhance personalization, streamline operations, and of course, deliver consistent high quality experiences across all of our customer touchpoints.
Well, and Adobe's not a tiny company. If you really think about it, every single one of the applications that everybody knows and loves, you get into Photoshop, Lightroom, etc., those are effectively customers for us as they try to adopt technology for both the web application, the mobile application, etc. Every single one of those is a almost a separate customer in a way that we have to serve. So this is not exactly a small program, is it?
Not at all. And matter of fact, I do think that this is a unique engagement because as you have previously said, I think even though Adobe is our own customer, they are not very different from other customers. But at the same time, being the fact that they are Adobe, they do bring a lot of wisdom. When you talk about Photoshop, for example, there is a secret formula and there's a secret sauce that, our apps have embraced, which is called product led growth. So right now, as we begin to understand and truly embrace that, we're beginning to see that by becoming obsessed with our end users to better understand where they're having pain points and how we can better alleviate that kind of experience, we're also learning how to better streamline our processes to iterate and bring better capabilities to the end audiences.
So I keep hearing this phrase product led growth from across the business, and we've spoken about it at Summit and other places as well. Can you tell the listener what does PLG or product led growth actually mean?
Absolutely. So, beyond product led growth being a business strategy, I would call it the secret sauce to success. What product led growth does is focusing on the product itself to drive growth by leveraging user behaviors and data in order to make informed decisions that will continuously help improve the product experience. So, what does that mean? We know that we may know that we are connected to a customer, but how or why is this customer here is something that we need to start asking ourselves. So, what product led growth inspires us is to be user obsessed because we must understand exactly where is it that they're hurting within their journey using our products so that we can actually identify and optimize the solution so that we can reinforce a successful strategy overall. How does one do that? And I think at Adobe, especially in the experience side of the house, we're very familiar with this approach, which is test something so that you can then measure it and optimize on it. So what does that mean? You have to start something. And what's better than perfect? Done. That said, if you come up with an idea and you put it out in the world, you go ahead and test it, and then you measure it with something with a solution like CJA so that you can then optimize future iterations of that, what we can almost guarantee is that we will be able to gather insights across customer touch points so that we can better improve the experience as we move further.
It's almost like an if you build it, they will come sort of thing, right? In that product-led growth means that you're using the product itself as the main engine for acquiring and retaining and expanding your customers. So you're continuously iterating on the features based on real-time data, of course, so that every interaction in the actual product itself is helping it drive value and overall adoption.
The one thing that I would like to emphasize here is remember in 2025, we are actually driving what we could call the economy of meaning, where the customer is at the steering wheel, initiating meaningful moments. And those are some of the capabilities that our Adobe Experience platform brings onto the table. So when and if I am a user using one of our solutions, using one of our products, and I initiate an action that should lead to a product reaction or a brand meaningful moment, that is the opportunity that we are unleashing with our solutions by bringing the power of the real time customer data profile so that we can then activate through Adobe Journey Optimizer in channels that make sense. So we're not just bound to email. We're evolving the way in which we communicate to our users by bringing these technologies from the Experience Cloud over to our apps.
So this is all amazing. We have Adobe on Adobe. We have consultants coming in and treating ourselves like a customer. We have this philosophy of product-led growth. We have this culture of using all of our own products to their fullest, not just to use them and get a benefit, but also to make sure that they work as our customers expect them to. But what do we do with all of this? Can you tell us a little bit about what we're actually doing with all these tech? What are some of the cool use cases that Adobe does for their own business?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you asked. So, I want to actually tell you about the dynamic payroll use case that we have on our mobile apps. So, back in December with the Acrobat mobile team, what happens was that there was a pilot that was addressed at English speaking Australians. And the entire purpose of it was actually to stop churn. And I can tell you that 2 months later, in February, we actually launched the same capability across 14 different regions in 14 different languages. This goes to show that what we're building here is at scale and it's meant to actually support not only one app, but all of our customers. In this case, like you mentioned before, our customers are our app teams. Our customers is our business. So we have these capabilities brought to you by Adobe Customer Solutions, who bring in product expertise, subject matter expertise, and contextual knowledge on how to best operate our solutions so that our apps can be set up for success as they need to take on the next step to support, the future customer centric experiences online.
So hang on a minute. I want to take this and pin it to the wall. I want to get back to that metric you just gave because it's amazing. So you said 14 different
Yes.
regions In how many languages and how
14
much
so
time?
the first iteration, which was the pilot, came out in December 2024. So as of Valentine's Day, and I remember very well, we actually launched the exact same capability, but to 14 new languages and 14 different regions. So imagine the extent at which we are able to reach to our customers. We're no longer bound to just communicating a message in English, but if you are an Acrobat user and you may speak a language that's not English, chances are that if you were interested in churning, we probably reached out to you in your own language.
Well, this has been really great and it's eye-opening, and I probably have 1,000 more questions. But Andrew, I want to thank you for joining us on the Experience Lab podcast and give you an opportunity to say goodbye
Thank
to
you so
folks.
much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here. Personally, I am very excited about this initiative because if there's one thing I want to say is even though originally my flavors of Adobe have been bound to activation, the one thing that excites me a great deal about being here is what comes next. We are poised to create a future. We bring the right expertise. We have the tools to deliver the next generation of customer experiences as we enter the era of the economy of meaning. So, with that, I look forward to what comes next. And I would love at one point for us to talk about, the future of agentic AI and how that will be connected with our Adobe on Adobe initiatives. But for now, I will leave you with this sentence that at least has changed my mind, has changed my life really, and has inspired me to dream big because we will never be bigger than our dreams, which is think big, act small, and deliver quickly. And I think that's what keeps me inspired to just continue challenging and continue creating things at Adobe. So thank you so much for the space, Chris.
Well, I can't top that. So thank you for being here, and thank you, listeners, for listening. This has been the Adobe Experience Lab podcast.